Let me begin with the cautionary tale. I'm not a terribly big fan of wheel spacers. I'm not a terribly big fan of adapters. Kind of the same idea. It's not will they fail, it's when they fail. And everyone who says that they're not going to fail, eventually they have one crack. And unfortunately, that's just kind of the reality of having a high-speed vehicle that is seeing potholes and whatever. If someone has never had a spacer or an adapter crack, first of all, I'm happy you're okay. Second of all, maybe you didn't put your vehicle through a hard or a rough situation. A good hard pavement or a good hard pavement seam hit or a good hard pothole can upset the apple cart when it comes to especially aluminum spacers. And steel is not commonly used because it's heavy and rotating mass is bad and it could be more expensive. I would always be suspect about the quality of aluminum used in those. So between you and me, I highly recommend that maybe you look for, you either stick with your stock wheels or you pick out aftermarket wheels to achieve the look you're looking for. The other cautionary thing is, unfortunately, and I'm not really part of this movement, you might want to say, but the truck bro look of the huge 22s, 24s, 26s with the big dish wheels and whatever, they have some noticeable downsides when it comes to functional performance. If you like that, that's great. I'm happy for you, but I want to warn everyone who's never owned anything like that there are functional downsides to having that. Like, for instance, someone's going to say, wow, they look like crap. I'm never going to buy that anyway. Well, I'm just trying to make sure that you know that there's challenges with those. Anytime you have a huge amount of negative offset and you stick those things way out, you're going to have a whole bunch of issues. First of all, your tie rods are going to wear a lot faster. The Super Duty steering system is fairly good. I'll tell you right now that I had offsets on my previous truck, 0 offset, as in they were sticking out about 1 3/4 inches on each side, which works out really good for handling. It works out very good for just getting outside of other people's ruts. You're just a little wider than, say, the average vehicle, and it works out well off-road. On-road, you're going to be inputting more shock from bumps, from obstructions in the road, things like that, into your steering system, and you will for sure be wearing out parts faster. You may go through wheel bearings faster if you have your truck for an exceedingly long time. Wheel bearings last a pretty darn long time, or they should. Maybe a little bit harder on ball joints. These are pretty strong ball joints in a heavy-duty truck, but I just want to caution, big wide wheels, they weigh a lot. Those wheels weigh a ton. They hugely detract from the performance of your vehicle. You could literally just bolt on a set of those and your truck's going to go slower and get worse fuel economy. So keep that in mind. A lot of times, too, they're made very poorly. They're not very strong. They do tend to fail. If you hit a curb with them, they're going to break, they're going to chip, they're whatever. So be very careful when it comes to these perhaps more extravagant wheel designs and wheel and tire combinations. The less rubber you have between your tread surface and your wheel lip is going to mean more shock is going to be input into your wheel, which can cause pinch flats, broken beads, and cause your wheel to crack, and also just makes the ride terrible. They can be very uncomfortable. That's not to say that you can absolutely tow a gooseneck. You can tow your full weight as long as your wheels and your tires are rated for the amount that you need to have for your truck. And we'll talk a lot about weight capacities here in just a second. So, why don't we start off with the simple combination? Just like this truck, you have stock tires. You want to improve the performance. The most important question you need to ask yourself is, what do I want to do with my truck? Are you on the highway most of the time? You just want to have a little bit extra tread to get you out of trouble? That's where all-terrains come in. Do you want to have excellent snow performance? Well, you may want to look for an LT snow tire, and specifically look for, like I just said, LT snow tires, light truck snow tires, that are going to meet the rating. Ideally, you want to be over 3,200 pounds, if possible, per tire for an HT truck like this. Most of the time, basically, any and all load range E's relevant to this are going to be way over that, even load range D's. I don't necessarily recommend getting load range D's, but they're actually fine. You just need to look at the weight capacity. It's not about the D or the E. It's really about the weight capacity. For instance, the Power Wagon comes with load range Ds, and it has plenty of tire capacity for even its admittedly modest payload, but it's got plenty to do the job. The issue with load range Ds is puncture. I've had just dozens of sets of tires over the years, and they're all load range E's. And let me tell you that, like, my Power Wagon, the Duratrax that came with the load range E's just attracted nails like nobody's business. They loved nails. My dad's LBZ Duramax, again, attracted nails like crazy. When you go to a heavy-duty LT, all-terrain, load-range E, or a mud tire, you immediately end the nail collection issues, more or less. Their carcasses are ridiculously strong. Has anybody ever tried to plug a load-range E? I just did for my buddy because he was up in my cabin and caught a nail in these worn-out ridge grapplers. I hate ridge grapplers. Oh. All right, we'll talk about that in just a second. So, your truck came with two 75/65 R20s, most likely if you have a 20-inch wheel. And if you came with an 18-inch wheel, I believe they're 275. What the heck are they? 275/70 R18s if you got them. I think that's what they are. What you do is, instead of Doug wondering what you got, is you simply walk over to your sticker. And you look right here. Come on, baby, zoom. Come on. Sorry, guys. We're having a little trouble with zoomage. See the sticker right here that says tire and loading informations? The factory tire was a 275/65 R20. It says it right here. Well, maybe when I put my hand in here, you get a little better. See that? I'm so sorry. That's being imperfect. That is going to give you a good starting point. In 100% of the cases, factory tires do not look as cool as perhaps you would like them to, which is probably a whole lot of reason why you're watching this video. What I have found is, if you want to have a modest tire on your stock wheels, if you go up 1 or 2 sizes, you're going to get that really good look. And I see that my headlights are tricking the camera here. I have 285/65 R20s on this truck right now. There is absolutely zero rub. You can actually go bigger than this. You can go 295/65 R20s. So that's 2 steps up, and they will fit. The reason why I went to this is plain and safe. I have mud flaps on here, and I wasn't sure during articulation when I steered if I could catch a mud flap, especially if I got some mud buildup or snow buildup. I didn't want to rip the mud flaps off. That's why I did that. So let's talk about upgrades in diameter and in width. Why does one want to upgrade the tire diameter? Well, the larger diameter you have, you're going to bridge over top of things easier. Also, when you have a larger diameter tire, your contact patch actually gets a little bit wider because of the tire's diameter, so you have a little bit less ground pressure. So not only do you gain lower ground pressure with width, you gain lower ground pressure with tire diameter, and that is going to work out in your favor. Something else too, larger diameter tires tend to, and this is basically a rule all around, have inherently higher weight ratings. A 37, 13, 5, 18 or 20 or whatever mud tire has usually like a 4,200 pound per tire rating. They have a huge amount of tire capacity. So they are way more than you need. With a tire that big, you could say, I want to run a load range C, to which I'd say you'd be right most likely in your weight capacity. Simply check what the tire's rated for. It'll say these tires are 3,750 pounds at 80 PSI. That is the maximum weight rating for the tire with that PSI. I've talked a lot about tire pressures. If you're not running that much weight on the tire, you should not be at the max rating for the tire. You should be aired down. And you air down proportionately to weight on the tire and then chalk test. So you take the weight on the tire, let's just say it's 2,400 pounds, divided by 3,750. That comes out to a decimal point. It's a percentage. Multiply that percentage times the PSI, so 80 PSI, and that gives you the amount of tire pressure that you should start with. And if you want to add 5 PSI and then test it from there, that's fine. The biggest difference happens when you go from, say, 80 down to like 55. That is a massive, massive difference. Worrying about whether you should go down to 50 or 45 or 43, that little bit of difference, it makes almost no difference. So if you'd rather err on the side of caution, great. Most of the time, one of these trucks is going to scale right around that 2,400 mark to 2,500 mark per tire on the front end. And most of the time, they're going to scale at like 1,850 or something like that in each rear tire empty. When you put a conventional hitch on the truck, all of that weight goes to the rear and it lifts weight off the front of the truck. When you have a gooseneck, generally speaking, almost no weight goes to the front of the truck, and it all goes down on the rear axle. It's more or less a rule. Everyone seems to think that goosenecks and fifth wheels put a lot of weight forward. They just don't. Generally speaking, people either have slightly lighter front ends with a gooseneck than they do empty, or they have basically the same front axle weight than they do when they're empty, and all the weight ends up on the rear. So take that into account, just because you're gonna. It's an important note, and we're gonna try and get this thing. The truck came with 80 psi front and rear rated tires. Ford knows this, so don't take my word for it. Come on, hand. Let's go. I'm sorry, guys. Let's go. Come on. See, it says 60 in the front? For the front? 60? They know, because of how low the front axle weight rating is, that you don't need to run a full 80 psi. So to achieve the maximum GVWR for the front axle, they only say to run 60. So don't take my word for it. Take everybody else's word for it. You 100% should not be running 80 psi in the front of these trucks. Let's get back to a couple little things. So, width. Some downsides come with width. 12.5 is getting to be a pretty wide tire and a pretty darn heavy tire. 13.5 is a really heavy tire and definitely is going to try and ride up in the rain and things like that. One thing you can do to heavily improve on-road snow performance and rain performance is to not run a 12.5 tire. The 285, the 295, and the 305 are wonderful section widths. Any of those tires that have that section width are likely going to not only fit on your truck without any modifications, look excellent, and perform extremely well. If you're not taking your vehicle into, I would say, hardcore off-road scenarios, I mean, the Tremor comes with a 285 section width tire. They're 285, 75, 18s. So clearly it was, it was built that way. The Power Wagon, again, also came with 285s. Power Wagon comes with way too small tires. Not exactly sure why they did that. But, because on a Power Wagon, you can easily put 35s, and you can honestly clear 37 stock. So, if you guys have a specific truck in mind, the thing is, I can't read your mind on what you have. So feel free to comment down below on what you have, and I'd be more than happy to help you out with recommended tire size, because I probably either own that truck and ran a set of tires specifically, or I have buddies who own your truck and have different sets of tires on them that I've either seen with, wheeled with, towed with, things like that. So I can definitely help you out there. All-terrain versus mud-terrain. For many, many years, I only ran mud-terrains in my truck. Why? Because I liked having that cushion of recovery potential with me 100% of the time. When you're going to search for trouble, you want to have a mud tire. If you're not going to search for trouble, and a lot of farmers go through fields and get away with having all-terrains or highway tires or worn-out tires, so it's certainly not that you can't have those treads. Let me just make a point really quick. Most farms are bringing trucks through fields which are flat. As soon as you add topography in there, that is where all-terrains and highway tires really, really struggle in mud. So if you have topography in your off-roading sphere or in your daily driving sphere, I would over-tire your truck for your situation, because you need better tires than someone who is wheeling in the exact same conditions without the hill. Keep that in mind. So, there are hybrid tires, hybrid all-terrain tires. The Ridge Grappler would be one of them. I believe the Duratrack RT would be one of them. They're kind of really just all-terrains that are snoozed up a little bit. So they're slightly more grabby than a normal all-terrain. And actually, the normal Duratrack would definitely fall into a hybrid all-terrain tire too. Then you get your hybrid mud tires, and that's like the new Toyo, which I'd love to try. The Toyo RT Pro is a really interesting looking tread pattern. I would call the original Grabber a hybrid mud tire. I would also definitely call like the BF Goodrich HD Terrain, I think they call it. Again, hybrid mud tire. It's a hybrid between closer to a mud tire and a little farther from an all-terrain, but not quite a full-blown mud tire. There are many examples of that, and it'll be really fun if anybody has any interest in exploring. Like, we could literally make a video, if people have interest in this, let me know, breaking down literally all relevant tires on the market and talk about what their expected performance is going to be. If you guys would like to see something like that, I love talking about tires, so let me know if you'd like to do that. I'm literally getting slammed with skeeters right now, so I'm going to try and use that as a reason to finish up here. So, instead of being told you can only run your factory size, know that you can go up a little bit. And especially if you're not getting crazy with width, you can get pretty crazy with diameter in most cases. Let's talk about when things rub. Really, your two main conditions of rubbing are going to be on the sway bar, which is in the front, and the radius arm, which is in the back. And if you have a Chevy, you're not going to have a radius arm, but you're going to have an A-arm, and you're going to have a sway bar up front. You might be rubbing on those so that would be too far in. So when you turn on the inside, and then the outside, it's either going to rub on the bumper, which Ford is very generous on these Super Duties. There's a lot of room to the bumper, or rubbing on the pinch weld of the body back here. So with tires, we're trying to get a balance of having enough clearance on the inside and on the outside. The OEM tires tend to be tucked in. They usually have like plus 44 to plus like 56 offset, so they're really tucked in there. They tend to rub on the radius arm and on the suspension-related members like the sway bar more than they do on the body. If you push the tire out, you'll gain clearance from the sway bar and from the frame, the A-arm, the radius arm, whatever the heck you have. But you're going to start getting closer and closer to the body when you turn, because the farther this comes out, and when it turns, it's going to be right in line with the pinch weld down there. So, with factory tires, you can generally go pretty big in diameter, but you're going to want to be careful on going too wide. Be careful as well. They do make like 37 11.5s. There tends to be an issue with handling when you don't have the width with that big of a tire. You can probably get away with a 35 11.5, which is a tire that I would like to try out on this truck with those Toyo RT Pros. If you want to see those things tested on the channel, they're a brand new tire. They look great. I've been talking to my Bell Tire dealer about trying to get a set to test because they look like a really great hybrid mud tire. I would really like to try those out and test them, and also just save these for more winter duties when right now I'm playing more in, sloppy conditions and whatever. So it is trying to get dark on me, and I'm sorry for that, but it's when I was working with a tractor, and this is when I had time to run over here and make the video. Okay, so when do you want to have mud tires? Like I said, if you're putting yourself out there into situations where you're trying to play off-road, that is where you may want to consider daily driving a mud tire, where its downsides are going to outweigh, or excuse me, its upsides are going to outweigh its downsides. Mud tires tend to be a little bit more squirrely in heavy rain. They will not stop on ice as good as all-terrains, and they're louder, and they generally don't last as long. Those are kind of your chief or primary downsides to a mud tire. People who run mud tires all the time, like me, accept the noise, they accept the braking loss on ice, and they accept the slight handling loss in the rain so that they gain mud performance, because maybe they're going off-road in the rain and they want to have mud performance, Mud tires work exceptionally well in deep snow. That is where they win. And here in Michigan, commonly, underneath the snow is mud, leaves, wet rocks, sticks, things that mud tires like to chew on. So, I, in a lot of cases, like to run mud tires even in the wintertime, because my on-road loss of performance is outweighed by the gain of off-road performance when I need to have those tires. These AT4s, because I'm purposely not putting my truck into bad situations, I'm really trying to take care of this truck. I'm not purposely trying to wheel this one like I did my 2019 Power Stroke. I did a lot of wheeling in that truck, like 2 tracks, and like legit trails where the truck barely fit. Did a lot of wheeling in that truck. And it works like a heavy-duty truck with a 12.5 wide mud tire is a really serious unit. A 35 on one of these trucks, or 35 12.5, you're getting to have a very serious off-road vehicle. And if you go and try and fit, if you go and get 37 12.5s, you're obviously going to have some downsides of handling, some downsides of braking, and for sure some speed loss, but you're going to gain a lot of performance off-road. 35s, these are 34.5s, tend to be the peak before you start getting to have more downsides than what a daily driver wants to have on them. people who daily drive around 37s and aren't wheeling often, they kind of screwed the pooch on that one, because 37s are going to start heavily impacting fuel range, fuel economy, handling, and speed of the truck, where 35s are still not heavy enough and still not big enough to really start decreasing your performance. If you're going to start going to big tires, consider re-gearing. It's very, very important. You may have a vehicle like this that you cannot re-gear. And I know I'm moving around here, guys. I'm sorry. I'm getting bit by skeeters. I'm trying to finish this up. That's an issue for these trucks, that you can't re-gear them. So make sure, I've said this before, if you're going to buy a Super Duty, and I hear a new Ram has all new axles too, make sure that you get the gear ratio you want to get in the first place. If you have an optional bigger gear ratio, if you know you're going to put a numerically higher gear ratio, if you know that you're going to put a healthier set of tires on, then I highly recommend that you select the healthier gear ratio. You're going to also gain GCVWR when you do it and have a higher towing capacity. So I do recommend that. So in conclusion, I hope that kind of helped you guys a little bit. You can look in your door sticker and pick out your original tire size. I highly recommend using Tire Rack to compare tire performance and reviews and things like that, and get a good idea, and also just see what sizes are available. A lot of us should just have kind of memorized like what we like. So like we'll just snap it off the top of the hat. You may be still developing that background. Go on Tire Rack and compare what brand, very common size, like a 285 70R17, a 285 65R18, a 285 75R18, 275 65R20s, 275 55R20s are what my Expedition has. So that's kind of a half-ton size tire. So you can kind of get a feel for what is out there, and I recommend looking at going one step up or two steps up. And what you can simply do is, once you find out what you like, so let's just say you really want to have, you want an all-terrain, so maybe you're considering a AT4W or something similar, and you think you want to go one step up. Simply type in on Google Ford Super Duty with 285 65R20 LTs on it, and then you can see all the pictures. And then if you want to type in, what really helps with research too with this is to type in exactly what you want and then type in form. So that way you can get on to what it'll first show you all the different like Super Duty forums and 8-Lug Mafia and all kinds of stuff, so that you could see more technical people talk about things. So you're not just seeing like a Tire Rack person saying, oh, the factory tire size is 275 65R20, so that's what you should run. Pirate 4x4 is another phenomenal source if you want to start learning more about the off-road world. That is an amazing forum. Always has been, just full of unbelievable people. Anyway, I think that we kind of got that wrung out. Does anybody have any, if anybody has any questions, specific application questions for your use, please comment below. Feel free to email me. I do my very best. I've just been slammed lately. I got the Mackinac race coming up here. I just had my bachelor party, so I'm just trying to do the best I can getting through the craziness right now. My dad is not doing super hot, which is worrying the crap out of me. So I just have a lot on my plate right now, but I'm trying to keep pushing forward and putting out the content, and also trying to engage with you guys the very best that I can. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for your time. And thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, first of all, I appreciate all my subscribers. And second of all, please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more technical truck content. And hopefully we're going to get more into doing some recreational and entertainment truck content as well. I was trying to get a good backbone of technical videos put up. And at this point, we probably have I think it's 430 videos up by now. So a good smattering of videos to choose from. And I got some buddies that we're working on some potentially more entertainment automotive content as well, because I mean, we all like to be entertained, and hopefully that'll be cool in the future. Take care all, and have a safe and wonderful day and 4th of July weekend. Please be so safe. Call a DD, call a friend, get an Uber. Please be safe out there, and ideally, if you're going to do that, stay home and enjoy a bonfire at home or something like that. Just do something that is safe. I don't want to hear about any of you guys getting hurt this weekend. Take care all, and bye-bye.